Welcome to the Guardian Group podcast series. The Guardian Group, providing extraordinary solutions to today's exceptional problems.
Hello, podcast fans. Welcome again to another installment in our Guardian podcast series. I think we're up to episode 17 now. I'm Todd Kolmodin, your host. Usually Rick Miraz with me, but he's on assignment today, making the world a better place with some other activities. Today we're going to talk about outsourcing. And outsourcing, first we want to decide what outsourcing is. Outsourcing is a process where, or a discipline where you send something out for a third party to either manufacture or do part of the process. From a manufacturing standpoint, it could be sending out something to be painted or anodized or have some conformal coating put on it. There could be inspection requirements, or like I said, you might send it out to have some partial assembly. I mean, basically what outsourcing is anytime you basically pay somebody else to do something, you're outsourcing. To break it down a little bit of, at home, if you have a landscaping company come in and mow your grass, once a week or what have you, you're outsourcing that. I mean, can you do that? Perhaps you can go out and mow, but, do you have the equipment? Do you have the time? It comes down to time as well. So, if we're going to do it ourselves, obviously, let's use my example that, we're going to do our own landscaping or you got to buy a lawnmower, you have to maintain it, you have to buy fuel, oil, all that type of stuff. Or do you pay somebody else to come in once a week and do it? You just pay them a set amount of money and they take care for you. So, if you're going to do it yourself, you need to know the cost of quality is what you'd like to say. When deciding to outsource or keep it in-house, there's two factors involved: the cost of it and your ability to do it yourself. So, do you have the ability to do it, to perform the task? And obviously, when I used my lawnmower example, most of us have been able to use a lawnmower at one time or another, but maybe it's somebody that has a physical, limitation or something that they can't do those type of things. So they need to look at outsourcing. What another example that I have, when you talk about it is this last year, I had to have some siding redone on the house. And for me, I mean, can I do it? No. Do I have the expertise? No. And this is, a one-time type of affair where, it's only done maybe once in the life of a house to be redone if necessary. And do I have the equipment to do it? No. Do I have the know-how? Like I said, no. So I look for somebody to take care of that process for me. So I outsourced it. When you're talking about, can I do it myself? In a manufacturing arena, we want to look at things before you say, okay, I can do it myself, I can't delegate this. We need to look at factors involved. The cost of doing it yourself. A lot of times in manufacturing, it's a very large operation, and you might have multiple departments, and unless you really know the cost of what it is taking to do it yourself, it's really hard to make a real good adjustment or a real good decision on whether I should outsource. Let's say, we talk about quality assurance and electrical tests. That's what we do. So if you're saying I can do electrical tests all by myself, okay. What are your costs involved with that? What is your equipment cost that you have? Do you have newer equipment? Do you have old equipment? What's your labor costs associated with it? Facilities costs, power requirements, air requirements, maintenance requirements, MTTF and MTTR, those mean time to fail and mean time to repair variables. Does the equipment you have support technology that we have today? If you have older equipment, Are you wasting time, or is it taking too much time to process products through the department? So you need to know all those costs of quality before you can make a really relative adjustment or relative decision to, is it easier or more cost effective to have somebody do it for me, or can I do it myself? So if you have decided all this and you're saying, I don't have the expertise, or my equipment's old, or these are certain processes that maybe I only do a certain amount of time, then, I got to find somebody that can maybe help me out with that. And when you think about that, you want to think about whether you're just looking for a vendor or are you looking for a partner? I mean, there is a difference. I mean, if it's a one-off type of deal, you might just say, call XYZ company, I need you to do this, how much it's going to cost. You send whatever it is you need to have done to them, they take care of it, and they send it back to you. But then also, if this is going to be a long-term type of solution, you want to be looking for a partner that's just not going to sell you a service or sell you a piece of equipment. You want to get involved with them and a partnership where they have a vested interest in your success. So, you know, looking at short and long term, does this vendor partnership, is it something that integrates into your full operation, meaning integrate, do they become an integral part of it where they're going to be involved long term? And I use that in the electrical test arena right now. I mean, an electrical test vendor can come in and sell you equipment and say, here you go, this will do what you want to do, and then they're gone. Or, they might see you once a year or something on maintenance contracts, or, sell you parts or whatever. But are they actually selling you a solution? And what you want to look at when you're talking about partnerships, are they vested into what you're doing? Are they integrated? Do they want to see you succeed? And not only do they sell you a piece of equipment, they actually bring in their expertise for you to use. And, that's kind of an integration outsourcing type of scenario. And another thing you want to look at when you're doing this, obviously the cost, like I said, when you first decide maybe I need to outsource, the cost of outsourcing versus the cost of doing it yourself. And what is the risk? I mean, what is the risk assessment that you're doing? Um, are they going to be 100%? Are they available 24 hours a day? If your operation is a 24/7, do they have knowledgeable team members? Are they accredited with registration bodies may be necessary for specification if you're doing military, aerospace, things like that? And, do they have solutions? I mean, if they come in and sell you a piece of equipment, is that just a piece of equipment? Or are they going to be with you? This equipment can do this. This is how you do it, and give you insight and a lot of confidence that the decision you made is the right one, and the dollars that you're spending with this vendor or partner make sense. Like I said, when I was talking about outsourcing from the homeowner, when I had my siding done, they came out and they did that. And then after that, there was, some painting that had to be done to match some colors here and there, and trim and so forth. And so, painting was another thing. Can I paint? Sure. But I live in a two-story house, and I'm not really too keen on climbing up on rickety ladders and stand up on the side of the house and do this. And, you know, what is the investment that I would have to do if I wanted to do that? I don't have a ladder big enough, so I got to buy a ladder, or I got to buy scaffolding. And then, of course, the paint you're going to buy either way. But, do I invest in scaffolding and long ladders and all this for a one-time affair? Uh, Cost-wise, it didn't make sense at all. So what did I do? Of course, I talked to some vendors out there and I outsourced, because I don't do painting every day and I don't need all this equipment. And so it was most cost effective for me to do that. And that's what you know, am trying to get across when you're talking about outsourcing. Is it something that, do I invest to do it myself, or do I delegate it to somebody that has the equipment perhaps, or has the expertise above and beyond what I can do? I mean, one of the the pitfalls that happens out there, and I see two camps of it out there. You have the camp that says we can do it ourselves no matter what. It doesn't matter. And then we have the camp out there that says, well, we might be able to do it ourselves at this cost, but we don't do it all the time, or we don't have the right tools or materials. So we need to find a partner to get involved with it. And one of the pitfalls, like I say, I'm using that word quite a bit. When you have the attitude that, I can do this myself no matter what, you could run into cost problems, especially if your equipment's older. Technology has advanced exponentially over the years, and you might have equipment that's not up to par to make things easier to be done today, or you might have equipment that you can do partial of what is required, then you have to move it to another piece of equipment or put it on a bench and do something manually because the equipment that you have doesn't perform or have the capabilities of what is available today in equipment. So it might be hard for you to invest because maybe the capital that you have is usually going to somewhere else where you're generating revenue rather than investing in something like, well, let's use electrical test. You're investing in equipment to perform electrical test or quality assurance, but it's not really generating revenue, right? So the electrical test department is going to be a place where they're not going to get a lot of capital dollars when you're sending it to plating lines and presses and etch equipment and all that, where you're actually generating dollars, being able to make higher tech product. So then you got to think about, the cost of, because when you talk about the cost of quality, you have the time, you have cycle times. And, if you're in electrical test and you have an older piece of equipment and your boards, your product's a hot one, we have a quick turn time, and you get into electrical test and, final QA, and all of a sudden everything stops because it takes longer, your cycle time's high, and that hurts your bottom line at the end of the day. So, maybe outsourcing in a sense there makes sense, whether it be sending it out to a third party or integrating equipment and expertise. You can lower your cycle times. You have the higher technology available to get your product through. Multiple tests can be performed at one time. And it could work out, stretching your dollars farther. So basically, in conclusion, when, we talked about it, we talked a little bit about what outsourcing is, and breaking it down to simple terms, it's any time that you pay somebody else do something that you usually do in house, or something, basically if you pay somebody else to do something, you're outsourcing, whether it's cutting the grass at home, painting the side of the house, or putting siding on. Anytime you pay somebody, you're outsourcing. When we are starting to think about outsourcing, whether we're going to invest or whether we're going to delegate, we need to think about the costs involved in it. For doing it myself, first of all, what does it cost you to do it yourself? The first thing and the most important thing is understanding what does it cost you. If you don't have a handle on that, it's really hard to make a decision on whether outsourcing makes sense or doing it inside makes sense. A lot of times what we find is, yeah, we can do it inside. They have no idea what the cost is. If you are going to decide to go outside with it, are you want to find a partner, or, it may be a vendor. It depends. But a lot of times in today's manufacturing processes, it's really good to find partnerships out there rather than just finding a vendor. Vendor can sell you something and then all of a sudden they could be gone tomorrow, or they just come in and, the sales guy is all keen on selling equipment, but he really doesn't have your interests in mind at the end of the day. So finding a partner, definitely investigate them, find out exactly what they can do for you. And then of course, how much is it going to cost for them to do it for you, whether it's a on demand or maybe a total integration type possibility. Know your costs so you can compare that to doing it myself. If you're going to do it yourself, do you have the equipment? Do you have the manpower? Do you have all of those costs in check? So if you decide, bring it all together, you can actually, A lot of times there's companies out there will actually take the entire process on for you. Not only does that remove the headache for you, it can be total black box type theory where the the product goes in and it comes out, and you just pay something to them on a monthly or quarterly or by job, however that works. You have the security of knowing that the company is doing what you need them to do. They're accredited. They back up what they do. They're a team player for you. They go to bat for you during an audit, things like that. So all that, type of thing when you're looking at outsourcing, you want to look at all that kind of criteria to make the best, you know, uh, I could say decision for your bottom line. And with that, that's basically my conclusions drawn from outsourcing, whether you're going to invest or you're going to delegate. There's pros and cons to both. But we find out there a lot of times when we're trying to figure out whether I should outsource or whether I should do it myself, it comes down to cost of what it really costs to do it yourself. And then against what the cost is to actually outsource it. Remember, it's costly to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes the cost of having somebody do it, you might say, how much is it going to cost to do that? Oh, that's way too much. But then again, if you don't know what it costs you, it's going to be very difficult for you to make that rational decision. You don't want just to have a knee-jerk reaction and say, it's too much. Because is it really compared to what it would cost you to do it yourself? Remember, doing it yourself is investments in equipment, time, maintenance, personnel. All that has to come into play. What does it cost you to run that per hour, per day, per week? Um, and what are your quality concerns around that? Doing it ourselves, what kind of quality matrix do we have? Do we even have one? Do we know? Are we tracking? What's our failure rates when any, and all that? So you got to make sure you know. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here for you on this episode 17 of the podcast series on outsourcing. And I'm Todd again. If you want to drop me a line or want to know any more about what we talked about today, just drop us a line at info@guardian.com. That's info@guardian.com, or get our website at www.guardian.com. That's www.guardian.com. And we'll look for you on our next podcast. Have a great day. We'll see you again.